Okay, just hit it.
I call the meeting to order. Roll call, Carrie Cahill,
Here.
Marie Johnson,
Here.
Peggy Kellen,
Here.
John Lumia is here, Mike McFarland,
Here.
John Morgan,
Present.
Keith Odoms,
Present.
Eddie Schleichauer,
I am here.
and James Spencer.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for Joanne Langto and Carolyn Walsh. Pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty,
justice,
justice
for all.
Thank you. Before we go into public comments, I'd like to make a comment as president of the board. On behalf of the board, I want to apologize to the community for holding tonight's board meeting virtually. This decision was made after consultation with board members. It is important the community understand that the decision was made because a number of items are tabled at the last board meeting, and the board adjourned the in-person meeting after I personally made a request for individuals to attend to wear mask. This board meeting and subsequent board meetings may be held virtually, so that items on the agenda are given adequate time and attention they need. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to listen to public comments. Although state law does not require us to hold a public comment period, we have chosen to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. The board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a debate or dialogue. Please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. We take your concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues. If need be, any question from the public should be submitted to the use of the public comment form, which may be obtained online or at the desk with the district clerk. We will have the proper staff members get back to you as appropriate. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we aren't able to address any comments or questions about specific students or school personnel. We would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. A total of 30 minutes at the beginning of each board meeting is set aside to allow for public comments on the agenda items only. Public comments at the beginning of the meeting is limited only to items on the agenda. Persons who wish to participate in the public comment portion of the meeting are asked to provide their name and a specific agenda item about which they wish to speak. Individual comments on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes and are welcomed. If you wish to address items related to our school district that are not on tonight's agenda, another comment period is provided at the end of the meeting for that purpose. In the interest of civility and respect for different points of view, clapping, booing, or any disturbance or disruption during the entire public comment period is not permitted. At this point, Alberta, are there any comments from the community?
Yes,
Alberta,
board members, I'll read those for you now.
thank you.
Our first comment is from Liz Bellato, the RCK PTSA president. She writes, the repair of the deteriorating steps outside of the RCK gymnasium are part of a capital spending review on tonight's agenda. Can you please provide the estimated completion date for this much needed repair? Beyond being a cosmetic issue, these stairs are a hazard and put at risk the safety of our students, staff, and visitors to our building and should be addressed before the start of the next academic year, if not sooner. Thank you. And the next comment is regarding agenda item 5.02, item number 19, reorganization, and item number 5.08, items 3 and 4, the behavior intervention services consultant agreements. The first comment is on the reorganization, establishing the position of 1 FTE personnel assistant. How often does a reorganization review occur done within each school for support staff, specifically the secondary schools? We currently have 1 senior typist for the principal, 1 typist per AP, 1 typist per the entire guidance department, one typist for the AD of special education, one typist per attendance, one typist per nurse's office, and one full-time typist and one part-time typist in the main office. There was a growing concern of one or more of these typists being out sick at the same time, yet maintaining the proper coverage of very active buildings. When is the last time this has been addressed? Item 5.08, the behavior intervention services from outside consultant James DeBaney. First, doesn't the district currently have 2 full-time behavior intervention specialists? Second, and most importantly, since the pandemic, mental illness along with violence rates have risen exponentially. When will the district and the special education department consider hiring more social workers and behavior intervention specialists? Thank you for your time. That's from Alicia Kansemi. And that's all the comments I have on agenda items.
Thank you for those comments. 4.01, general support instructional budget. Dr. Bunk.
Thank you very much, President Lumia, Vice President Kellen, members of the Board of Education, and members of our community. This evening, I will provide a brief presentation as to where we are with our 2022-2023 budget, which again is titled Connecting with Our Community. And this will be the general support, instruction, transportation, and the undistributed preliminary budget discussion. I should share with you that to this point, the senior staff administration has been meeting and have been discussing items for inclusion in the budget, as well as items for potentially exclusion from the budget. It's important moving forward that we develop a budget that maintains the programs and services that we provide for our students that they deserve. In addition to that, we need to be fiscally responsible to our community, and we look to craft a budget that will be recommended within the coming weeks to months to the Board of Education that will meet both of those objectives. I am confident that we can do this again together. So if we can move on to the next slide. Factors and challenges in the 22-23 budget. Obviously, we know about the pandemic. We're providing education and much else during unprecedented times. How is this going to impact our instructional models in the future? As I've stated before, remote learning was not optimal. We didn't have a choice. We had to do it. It was the best option that we had at the time. I think many have since learned that despite the efforts of many in providing remote learning, it's obviously not the same as in-person instruction. So what are we going to need to do over the next probably 3 to 5 years for those students who were remote learning participants for potentially up to 2 years? They're going to require additional services to get back the learning loss that they've suffered over the past 2 years. Obviously, we want to support the educational needs of all of our students, social and emotional well-being, student wellness, awareness and strategies to support not only students, but also our staff. Our staff has had to endure many obstacles, as our students have, as our families have over the past 2 years. What type of strategies do we need to put in place to make sure that they are functioning to their highest level? And if they're not, how do we support them? Tax cap, balancing a budget within the tax cap parameters, such as piercing the tax cap, tax rates below the tax cap. State aid, developing projected budgets based on preliminary projections. Federal funds is the federal allocation for non-budgeted pandemic-related expenses. We'll move on to the next page, please. So where are we at this point? Well, we're developing budgets based on the feedback from vendors, departmental historical input, as well as municipal input, as well as community input and input from the Board of Education. Again, connecting with our community. That's the theme of our budget. Utilizing forecast and planning tools for information that is not yet finalized for 22-23. That includes debt service rates, health insurance contribution, New York State retirement system, as well as the CPI. The Board of Education budgetary request for additions to the 22-23 budget. Again, we came out with administrative goals at the beginning of the school year, and the board came out with board goals at the beginning of the school year. Very, very similar. Provide as much in-person instruction as we can for our students and ensure that they continue to have access to the best programs available. In addition to that, we needed to take a look at our budget and what the budget has been over the past couple of years. And in some areas, we have streamlined our organization. As many of you know, the district has lost enrollment over the past 10 to 15 years. And we have gone through every item in the budget with a fine-tooth comb. Offices and schools have indicated their initial local proposals and requests, again, under review by the senior staff. And again, as I said before, we want to maintain those high-quality student-centered programs and highly qualified staff. And of course, we want to continue to provide our students with the programs that they currently have and look to expand those specifically in the areas that we have indicated our concerns. Student wellness, opportunities for students, as well as ensuring that we provide academic intervention for our students who need to be brought up in terms of improving their academic performance. And of course, we conclude with the governance and decision-making to a final recommended budget. So let me share with you what we do have. We can go on to the next page. The executive budget proposal, we do know that. So last week, Governor Hochul and the budget director released the executive budget proposal. School aid runs were made available. The aid runs for the Wappinger Central School District contained an error that when I spoke with Ms. Crandall, her and I were rather miffed at the funding, and Ms. Crandall contacted the state, and lo and behold, it's been corrected. So thank you to our financial guru, Assistant Superintendent Crandall, for making that phone call and realizing what we had anticipated. We're actually looking at up to a 13.83% addition in New York State aid increase. That's through the governor's budget, mainly attributed to the foundation aid formula. Now, New York State law indicates that when you calculate the tax cap, the rate of 2% or CPI or lower should be used. We're currently using 2% in our calculation of the tax cap. And I'm not going to take more time in reading how the tax cap is derived, but you'll see the information on your slide. I am hoping that at the next board meeting on February the 7th, we'll have a little bit more concrete information as to what the administration is going to recommend moving forward as far as a budget is concerned. And if we can move forward to the next page. So what's next? Again, we encourage our community to share feedback, ask questions. Again, this is our budget. This is our community budget. What do we believe that our students need to be successful? The Superintendent's Forum, again, we'll have another presentation coming up on February the 7th. We ask that you send any comments, questions, and feedback to budget@wcsdny.org. And we continue to provide updated budget information on a regular basis on our website, which is wappingerschools.org. One other thing that I will mention to you is I had a conversation with the board shortly after accepting the appointment of superintendent of schools. And I suggested that I felt it was in the district's best interest to go speak at our municipality meetings to work in conjunction with our local municipalities. We're all in this together. We all serve our community. We serve it in different ways, but we're all committed to service. So I, along with members of the senior staff, will be presenting our school budget at the local municipal meetings within our district. And I can tell you, Ms. Pedro, please just reaffirm, we already have dates and times set up with the town of East Fishkill and the town of Wappinger. So again, we're looking forward to informing our community as to what this budget is about, why it's important to vote on this budget, and also what is our end result and where does it fit in potentially with a 3 or a 5-year plan. We need to look at the long range planning for our district as we move forward. And with that, that's the conclusion of my presentation for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bunk. I noticed that I skipped to one agenda item, namely communication from the received by the Board of Education. So at this time, I will ask, has any board member received some communication, would like to make some comments? Jim, Mr. Spencer?
Thank you, Mr. Lumia. I just want to let the community know that I attended, along with other board members, last Friday, the Catherine Street Community Center 31st Annual Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast, where there were several honorees, folks that really pay it forward and give back to the community. And they had 3 youth honorees, one from Poughkeepsie High School, a young man, Harrison Brisbane McKinnon, one from Arlington High School, a young man, Nathan Chavone, and one from RC Ketchum High School, a young lady, Tatiana Blackhorse. And I just want to say congratulations to all 3 recipients. I was particularly inspired by Ms. Blackhorse and her speech and the things that she's done already within the RCK community, within the Wappinger Central School District community, and the things that I'm sure she's going to be doing in the future. One of the things that struck me was this young lady encouraging everyone in attendance to find their joy and do what is joyful to you. So I just want to say congratulations to all honorees, especially Tatiana Blackhorse, and I wish them well in the future.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? Marie, Ms. Johnson?
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to say, last Thursday evening, I attended a webinar co-sponsored by the Dutchess County School Boards Association, and I believe it was the Westchester School Boards Association that started it. The speaker was Ted Dintersmith. I think I said that right. And it was hosted by Joe Rickey. He was the superintendent of White Plains. I can just say that I walked away from that webinar extremely inspired. I was very excited about some of the stuff that was spoken about. It was on innovation, and also regarding, they talked about vocational programs and the importance of that, and innovation, and turning things over to our teachers to help them come up with some really inspiring ways. And I have to say, I was very excited afterwards. I had a couple conversations with our superintendent, and I look forward to all the stuff that he's going to help bring that on. I know Ms. Kellen was also part of it. I also attended the Martin Luther King breakfast, sponsored by Catherine Street Community Center, and they were kicking off also their 100th year anniversary of the great work that they've done in Poughkeepsie. So I'd like to acknowledge that. And Miss Blackhorse, can I just say, brought me to tears with her speech. Mr. Spencer is right. She is a beautiful young soul that I am very honored to say is part of our WCSD community. And that was, they received some scholarships from the FDR library. Also, real quick, on tonight's agenda, under consent 5.14, approval of donations, Miss Susan Richter sent the district some yearbooks. These are vintage yearbooks from Portico from 1949, 1950, 51, and 52. As somebody that does genealogy very passionately and so forth, can I just say that these are huge treasures that we have been bestowed upon? Ms. Victor, you know, she sent it at her own cost to the district. And when I tell you, as a genealogist, these are things that we strive to hope not lost in time. And so much of it is lost. And I'm just very thankful that she was able to send it. So thank you to Ms. Richter. And that's it.
Peggy?
Yes, that program from the Lower Hudson Schools Superintendent's Council was really very inspiring. And Miss Blackhorse was indeed a very worthy recipient. I was especially pleased because I had the good fortune to volunteer at the Catherine Street Center a number of years ago, and they do wonderful work. I also wanted to thank Dr. Bonk for speaking at the Dutchess School Boards Association on our Best to Stay program. Several members afterwards told me that they were hoping to do that in their districts also. So thank you, Dr. Bonk.
Anyone else? I'll make some comments if you don't mind. A few meetings, board meetings ago, I failed to properly identify second place winner as well as third place winner of the spelling bee. The second place winner was Ava Hamdi, and the third place winner was Noah Kaplan. Congratulations to the RCK wrestling team for finishing second at the Matt Wars tournament held at RCK. In particular, I want to recognize Matthew Marsh, Eddie Corcoran, and Gavin McLaughlin for winning first place. To win first place, you had to win 5 matches. 3 additional students from RCK, namely Alex Rathburn and Noel Martinez and Mike Monte, came in second. More, I want to recognize Eddie Corcoran, who won the tournament most pins, least amount of time award with 5 pins in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. That is quite an accomplishment. If you've been to any of these meets, they're incredibly hard. And to be able to win 5 matches and be able to pin at those kids in 5 minutes, compare 5 pins in 6 minutes and 30 seconds is quite an accomplishment. In addition, I want to congratulate the coaches, Chris Perry and Mike Bianco. Also, congratulations to Evan Price, Guy Colastisto, and Bradley Morrison from John Jay, who took 5th place. Congratulations to the RCK student, Gianna Hyde, and Wapiti Junior High student Ava Adams for being named the January 2022 Rotary Students of the Month. Congratulations to RCK student Sebastian Smith for qualifying for the New York State swim meet. Good luck at the state meet. Congratulations to the John Jay Proscenium Theater Group for the excellent performance at Almost Maine. Congratulations to the John Jay Bowling team for taking first place in the Ralph DeStefano tournament. On behalf of the Board of Education, I want to thank the staff for all the time and effort of various related COVID duties, such as contact tracing, test to stay, distribution to over 6,000 COVID tests. Lastly, as has been already been mentioned, I want to congratulate the Catherine Street Community Center for their fantastic work for celebrating the 100th year for providing service to the community. During the celebrations already been mentioned, the center honored 3 students, one from RCK, named Tatiana Blackhorse, who gave a very inspiring and emotional speech. I was very glad to go to that particular event, and congratulations to the center for providing such important services to the community. With that being said, let's go to the next item on the agenda, which is.
Excuse me, Mr. Mumia.
Yes, John. I'm sorry, John. Yes.
I'm sorry. I didn't raise my hand high enough earlier. I was also honored to represent our Board of Education at the Catherine Street Community Center Martin Luther King breakfast on Friday. The only thing that I wanted to add, because each of you that's mentioned it has already said said great things. I found it particularly touching when Tatiana Blackhorse made specific mention of her teachers and the administrative team by name at Roy C. Ketchum High School. So our thanks to the staff, and thank you for the inspiration, as Trustee Spencer said earlier. I also just wanted to mention yesterday was a pretty cool day for the girls track teams from both of our high schools. The John Jay girls finished in first place down at the Armory in New York City. Trailing right behind them in the northern counties was Roy C. Ketchum. So our 2 high schools finished 1-2 in the team competition for the northern county. And I would also point out, as influenced, I see you clapping, Eddie, as influenced by my middle daughter, also in first and second, as of this very moment, in the Poughkeepsie Journal Athlete of the Week is Maya Perillo from John Jay Track, who pole vaulted over 10 feet yesterday. By the way, the second place competitor was 6 feet something. So she beat her closest competitor by close to 4 feet. And And I don't know this young lady. I'm sure she's a fine young lady. And if she met my daughter, she'd be her friend. And I would be better at pronouncing her name. But from the Ketchum girls basketball team, Callie Chachi is in second place voting for the Poughkeepsie Journal Athlete of the Week. So 1-2 finishes in 2 different places for our 2 high school athletic programs. Keep up the great work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone else. And next in line is, I'm sorry, Eddie? Eddie?
Can we just go back to Dr. Bonk's presentation in case any board members had any questions before we move on to?
Absolutely. Does anybody have any question of Dr. Bonk? I guess you do, Eddie.
Well, it would either be for Dr. Bonk or Ms. Crandall. Just to clarify, because we've gotten inquiries in the past about the American Rescue Plan and monies that were sent from the federal government to the states to be distributed to the school districts. And correct me if my numbers are wrong, but based on past conversations, it was determined that our district was entitled to somewhere in the neighborhood of $18.9 million, which would be paid out over 3 years, so roughly $6.3 million. So my question is, have we received any updated information as to when that money will be coming and exactly the use of that money? If there are any particular guidelines? We had mentioned in prior conversations, 20% of that money for each year needed to go for lost learning, and then obviously for any additional PPE. And then the other big thing was to improve ventilation, and infrastructure, within our buildings, within the district. So I know the community has brought up several times about federal funding from the American Rescue Plan. So the question really is, do we have any idea when this money is coming? Have we heard from the state? Has Dr. Caldwell or Ms. Crandall or you, Dr. Bonk, received any information from the state as to what's going on with this particular process as we move forward, as this money was approved by Congress close to a year ago?
Ms. Crandall, I
Dr.
see that. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
can speak to that. Sure. So first of all, we have actually 3 different funding sources, 3 different stimulus packages that the district has received, and they're handled through our federal funds. So federal funds are reported annually and are processed through drawdowns on those funds. So at this point in time, we do have clarification on much of what the funds can be spent on. We are planning that out with Dr. Cardwell. Actually, we were having conversations about how that, how and what that means for the general fund budget going forward. And we are continuing to evaluate where we stand. HVAC project came up, for example, but that's a very long process with SED. It's important to note that those funds are not general fund dollars. So what Dr. Bonk spoke of this evening and the increase that we've seen from New York State is not the same funding that Trustee Sloshower just mentioned. So we are working that, and that's a long-term plan. We go through September 2023, 24 with the different funding sources, different funding stimulus packages from the federal government as we continue to build the general fund budget now. But it's important to remember those federal funds are a one-time revenue source. They do not exist forever. They're not recurring. So it is a one-time revenue source that the district is recognizing through the federal stimulus packages.
If possible.
Thank you, Ms. Crandall, for the clarification.
If possible, could we get an amount that has already been spent from the stimulus on and what has been spent on? If we get it on that.
Sure, we can. I do not have that off the top of my head, but we can definitely get.
We get a chance, no problem. Thank you very much. And with that being said, Mr. Sharkey, 5-year building survey, it's all yours, along with our famous Mr. Bross.
All right. So, Alberta, do you need to give me access, or can I just share my screen?
You should
John?
have the ability to share.
Okay. Yes.
No, John Lumia, just for people that didn't look at the agenda, could you introduce who Mr. Sharkey is for those watching remotely that don't know both his expertise and his relationship to the district?
Mr. Sharkey is district. He does all the plans for the district. He's our architect. He's a district architect. Unless, John, you want to add to that?
No, that's pretty good. We've been doing projects in the district since 2009, I believe. We've done several phases, and we were hired by the district last year to do their 2021 building condition survey. So the intent of the presentation tonight was just to give you a little update on what the survey does, how it helps the district, and items moving forward.
I've worked with the district for the last, God knows, every capital project that we've done so far, and they've done an excellent job. So with that being said, please continue, John.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully it all works. Okay. Can everybody see the presentation there?
Is that the first page?
Yes. All right, everybody can see that on their screen?
Yes, okay, that's the very first, okay, yes.
Okay, so, well, thanks for the opportunity tonight to present this pretty short agenda, but I was looking to talk a little bit about the building condition survey process, give you a little overview of what we found, the district buildings, the 2021 building condition survey findings, and then the next steps that have been discussed in a few meetings. So the building condition survey is required by school. I know some of you know this information already, but I think it's good to give a brief synopsis. It's required by the state education department every 5 years. Every school district has to do a survey. They used to have every school district in New York State do it every 5 years, the same year, which was a nightmare. So they've broken it up. Your building condition survey was to be completed in 2021, which we did. It was supposed to be completed by December 31st. We finished it sometime around mid-November, had several meetings to look at the findings. The survey was performed by our office, our engineers, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, our site engineers, and our structural engineers have been through all the buildings and facilities. And the purpose of the condition survey is mostly to help SED go to the state and say how much money they're going to need over the next 5 years. So the budget money is there. It's also used by school districts to plan improvements for the next 5 years. So it is a handy tool to use. The data does have to be reported electronically to the state education department by March 1st of this year. We have it ready to go. So once we get final approval and submit it, we submit it electronically, and then Dr. Bonk has to go in and certify it, and then we're all registered. The next step is a 5-year capital facilities plan. Use the building condition survey to start updating your 5-year plan, which is also required by SED. Every time you submit a project, you have to submit a summary of your 5-year plan because they want to make sure that what the taxpayers and what the district is looking to do is actually done in those projects. So we submit that with each capital project, and that plan should also be reviewed and updated annually, which we have been doing with the district since we've been working here. The aspects of the building condition survey, we'll look at the Health and Safety Committee reviews it. We also look at your annual fire inspections and your maintenance plan and your school facility report cards. And again, since we've been in the district for so many years, a lot of different information is already in our hands, and we have ready access to that. Please, if anybody has any questions, jump in at any time. Building condition survey method, basically walk through the buildings. Since you have so many, you have 13 schools, facilities, transportation facilities, storage buildings. So it took quite a bit of time to go through all the facilities. But the findings are based on our on-site observations, existing building documents. We've also taken input from the building staff, most particularly Mr. Frost. He knows the buildings better than anyone. So we've sat down on several occasions to go through the reports and findings, and as things come up. Us having such experience in the district is great because a lot of times we get high-buy districts to go in and we walk through in the summertime when everything's great, and we don't get to see the buildings in the wintertime. So we've been in the buildings throughout the whole year. So it's a lot of things have come up that we've included. And then finally, our team reviews the findings with the district's representatives, which we've done with the facilities committee and Mr. Bross. And then the findings are prioritized by the district and reported to state education department. And that's pretty much the phase we're at right now. This is just a quick list of the items we look at. We look at site, playgrounds, fields, parking, foundations, building envelope, mechanical systems, ADA accessibility, and then indoor air quality. That's a hot item right now. So that's one of the items we spend a lot of time on in your buildings. Once you do all that work, you have to categorize each building as either a health and safety item, a structural item, or other. And you have to give it an H or an S in the building condition survey form. If any of those items are unsatisfactory, then the building gets an unsatisfactory as far as SED is concerned. Unfortunately, in a building, I'll take for instance RCK, you could have 200 functioning unit ventilators, but if there's one or two that are not working, technically you have to list the building as unsatisfactory because it's not 100% accurate. In the past, unsatisfactory rating was considered not a great thing to submit to SED. However, if you go to do a project and your buildings are listed as satisfactory, sometimes they say, well, if you listed your buildings as satisfactory, why are you doing a project? So it is actually beneficial to have some items listed in your report that need repair. We also show in that report the year of last major reconstruction. We list the oldest components so that you know what some of the items are coming to the end of their useful life. And then we show cost for the unsatisfactory items and recommended improvements. So excellent is basically any new systems. You've had quite a few because of all the work you've done over the last few years. Satisfactory is generally what most systems come out at. They're operating fine, they're functioning, and they're working as designed. Unsatisfactory is any system that's considered health or safety, and health or safety is quite a few items, anything from ventilation to structural, or those kind of things. And then failing is any system that has failed, and we don't have any failing systems in your district. So the 5-year facilities plan is a document that we organized that takes the building condition survey, the existing buildings, and we break it out over a district-wide basis for years 2022 to 2027, which is a 5-year plan of items that are critical, items that can wait a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and that's kind of the next step in the process. This plan is based on, as I said, the building condition surveys, reports, and any reports of any health or safety issues in the district. And then this plan establishes the goals and budgets for the district's facility improvements going forward. So just a brief history of the school. Your oldest school building in this district was built in 1910, which is the Fishkill Elementary School. And the Wappinger Junior High School was built in 1940. 12 of your 14 school buildings were built between 1952 and 1967 because there was a big boom back then. A lot of districts built a lot of buildings. The unfortunate thing about that is that if they're all close to the same age, they all start coming to the end of their useful life at the same age. So a lot of the systems in one building has to get replaced in the next one. So, and it's a yearly thing to keep up with them. The school buildings are pretty simple architectural forms. You have a lot of masonry buildings, low slope roofs, concealed spline ceilings. I know you've obviously been through the buildings, and while they're still in good working order, and Mr. Bross has been keeping them as well as he can, some of the systems and materials just are at the end of their useful life. You have a 30, 40 year time span, and you get into that area in some of the buildings. And also the American with Disabilities Act of 1991 requires that public buildings be modified to provide access for the handicap. You've been doing that in all the new construction, all the renovations we've been doing. We've been updating areas to meet the ADA, but there are still some buildings that could use some more work to get them more accessible. So the next couple of slides are basically a report card that we use, that we take out of the building condition survey to kind of give you a snapshot of each building. I won't go through it in too much detail, but it just lists in the left side column is the SED number, and then the system. Then we write down what we found out there, and then it's given if it's a U, an unsatisfactory, it's given a U in that column in red, and then the cost for that item is in the columns to the right. And we have a list of, right now, I said a 5-year plan. Right now, we start out with a must do, should do, and nice to do. And then we sit down with the facilities committee and decide what the priorities are. So for instance, at RC Ketchum High School, it deteriorated entrance steps, which someone mentioned earlier in the committee meeting. We do have that listed as a U, and it is listed under a must do, and it's going to be taken care of in the next project going out. And there's also a small item, another U small item that Mr. Bross is going to take care of if he hasn't taken care of already for an exit sign. So that school is in very good shape, just 2 U's. Same at John Jay, same thing, deteriorated entrance steps, which were taken care of. And then the roof is in past its useful life. It's out of warranty, and the district's been doing some repairs to it, but it's pretty much time for that roof to be replaced. So next, Van Wyck, same thing, just 1 U. It has to do with the HVAC systems, which we're actually taking a look district-wide of with this federal money that's coming in, and different ventilation systems. We're looking at the best options for each building. So we're going through that process in several of our meetings. So that building is also just 1 U. Wappingers Junior High School has a few U's, mostly to do with ventilation. A couple of small items that we saw as we were going through the kitchen, and some other, like ADA path to the fields, that's technically should be there. There is access, but it's not totally up to ADA standards, so that's something we would have to modify. And then 2nd floor toilet rooms. So it's for a building that size, it's not a great deal of work. Brinkerhoff, no use, good shape, but there are some systems that should get done. Fishkill Elementary, again, same, not terrible other than the ventilation, which we're looking at as well, district-wide. Fishkill Plains has a few U's, but they're, again, mostly due to ventilation and a small work in the kitchen area, which we're also taking a look at. So it's most of the things are ventilation and recent upgrades and COVID issues that are, we're taking a close look at the ventilation in school buildings. Gayhead Elementary, again, ventilation. James Evans, just 1 item. We've done quite a bit of work there, so it's just a small item there that's going to get taken care of. Kinnery Road, also in great shape. I know there's a lot of things on the list here, but we try to list everything. Nothing critical right away, so that building is in good shape. Myers Corners, kind of the same things, that a few must-dos, but nothing. We are taking care of the deteriorated exterior steps there as well. Oak Grove, also in good shape. We have 1 item, 1 U, which is a new hood in the kitchen. Sheaf Road, same as some of the other elementary schools, ventilation. Vassar, again, same, some boilers that need to be replaced, some air. So we're looking at that district-wide. Fishkill Modulars, nothing to do there. Transportation facilities, great shape, obviously, fairly new facility. Facilities and operations, the roof is in pretty poor condition, so that should be replaced sooner than later. And district office, alternate high school, we have one U there for the roof. Again, the roof there is an old metal roof that's getting some leaks, and it's only going to increase with time. Bus garage, transportation office, same, no U's, but some work should be done in there just to make it a little more updated. And then bus maintenance building 2 is also in good shape. So, yes. SED Building Condition Survey asks us to look at infrastructure and existing systems. We also, as part of that process, look at your program improvements, because you don't want to just look at the buildings. You want to look at other things that'll help students. And we've taken a look at a few of the schools, and there's at Royce Ketchum, we looked at potentially renovating 2 ceramics classrooms. We did some renovations in the other rooms, and those are basically the last 2 program or technical classrooms that really could use a facelift. Same thing at John Jay High School, 2 classrooms there. And then Wappingers Junior, we also looked at replacing the auditorium seating and renovating a home and careers classroom. They have 1 classroom there that's I think original to the building, so it could definitely use some help. So the summary of the entire building condition survey, we have a construction cost of a little over $62 million. Then the incidental costs, which the district is a district's cost for doing the work. It's also professional design fees, construction managers, anyone that has to do with construction of a project, is the incidental cost, which is typically around 20%. It could be a little bit less, but that's a good number. So the total building condition project cost is right now $74,895,000. And then the other improvement cost, which was the classroom renovations that I just mentioned in the previous slide, comes up to 1.6 million. So overall, the building condition survey and program improvements were at 76,515,000. When we started out several years ago, I think we had somewhere in the range of 95 million worth of need, and we've done quite a bit since then. But like anything else, as the buildings age, other things pop up. So you've been doing a great job in, taking a lot of those original items off the list. And just as buildings get older, some things have to go back on in other areas. So projects and design, I mentioned that we do have money left over from previous projects. We came in under budget. We were able to save some money on some of those projects. So we're going to use that money to take care of some of the items that were in the building condition survey. So we can take those off the list once we get that approved. Some of that work is doing additional vinyl tile removals at Fishkill Plains Elementary. Same thing at Sheaf Road. Also at Sheaf Road, we're going to reconstruct the parking lots and driveways. That's probably the most deteriorated site that you have right now for the elementary schools. And then, as I mentioned before, RCK, John Jay, and Myers Corners, we're going to be redoing the exterior stairs. That work is planned to go up to SED very shortly, and we're hoping for a quick review and get that construction work done this summer. So it'll all be completed before the kids are back in school in September.
Hey, John?
Yes.
Did the Capital Improvement Committee, under the chairmanship of Mr. Schleichauer, consider possible 2022 capital project?
Yes.
Could you share that with the community as well?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. I'll just finish this slide. Next steps. So we kind of a preview of that. So right now we have to report the building condition survey by March 1st. Finalize the 5-year plan. We're also meeting with the capital committee to talk about not just a 5-year plan, but a 10-year plan to address the items in the building condition survey. We think that's more feasible time frame to get that work done, and then present the proposed capital projects to the Board of Ed and the public for discussion. So we have had a few meetings on that. We did come up with a proposed 2022 capital project, which takes a lot of the unsatisfactory items in that building condition survey and takes them off the list. So we felt that these were the critical items that really need to get done. Obviously, if we do a capital project in 2022, it takes a year to 18 months to get through the state education review and design and all that. So you're really looking to be 2024 before any work can get done. So it's good to start early to try to get that done. So we went through each school and picked out several items that we thought were the critical items. So at RCK, John Jay, Van Wyck, Wappingers Junior, at Fishkill Elementary, Fishkill Plains, several items. And when we got to the end of the list, we originally tried to get to somewhere where we thought would be a good project around $20 million. And with those few items that were in the building condition survey actually came out to $19,963,000. So that's kind of where we're at right now, reviewing the items that were in our must-do list to get the district, great facilities, and the other items could be done at a later date as we're still working through the process.
Eddie, would you like to comment on that? Eddie?
Actually, it's an agenda item for our next meeting for February to fine tune and tweak this proposal to, have the committee, as we said, tweak and finalize, and then, present to the full board. The question just remains, we're still waiting for some numbers on, as Mr. Sharkey had mentioned, on the HVAC systems. Again, because we're not exactly sure what some of that federal money, how much of that can be used towards the HVAC upgrades. The fact that we have 15 buildings, it's not going to cover it. So we just have to figure out how much are we getting, what can be allocated through here, and then what could be allocated through a capital project, and then a time frame to get it done. So hopefully within the next 1 to 2 meetings, this will be finalized to be sent to the full board, for discussion and approval, and then obviously, for public to make comments on it as well.
John, I want to thank you, Mr. Bros, as well as the committee members, Mr. McFarland, Marie Johnson, and several community members. Thank you for your participation in the capital improvement project committee. So as Mr. Slauer said, that we'll have a meeting this coming month, and further discussion will take place on a possible capital project for 2022.
I have a question.
Any questions? Any other questions? Yes, go ahead. Who's this? Who's that?
This is Keith.
Oh, Keith, yes.
Mr. Sharkey, I have a question. You had mentioned that some items will, if you repair them or replace them down the road, you may have to redo that project again. What's the probability of that occurring? Because as you said, we have multiple buildings. So if you replace or fix one thing and then 5 to 6 years later, it reoccurs, wouldn't it be better to, I don't know, I thought of maybe, doing something new, a new building or something. So you have up to date, everything will be up to date where you don't have to keep going back in to fix things.
Yeah, I think when I mentioned that 5 or 6 years later, you have other things to do is when the building condition survey is done, like a house, every 20 years, you need to put a new roof on a house. You have 14 school buildings. So realistically, you almost need to do a new roof every year just to keep up. So as every 5 years, there's just a whole bunch of list of things that come back onto the building condition survey. I mean, the things we put into buildings, we're doing now. In the old days, you used to do a 20-year roof. We've been designing for the district 30-year roofs. So we're going it's a little bit more money, but we're going a little extra, farther down the road to make sure that the things we're putting are not going to have to be replaced, hopefully in our lifetimes.
So when you had mentioned in other school districts, when you building new buildings and you're putting in these high-tech equipment in or just new equipment, does it turn out to be cheaper going down the road than continuing to repair?
Well, for instance, like an HVAC system, if you're putting a brand new system in an existing building, it'll last as long as one you put in a new building. There may be in the existing building a little more expense because you're dealing with existing construction and you have to work around, you run into asbestos and things like that. But overall, in this climate, the financial climate, we've had a lot of conversations with the state education department, and they're real tough on doing additions or new buildings now because of aid. For instance, if we took, like say RCK, for instance, we put in a brand new heating system, which is going to get paid back to the district over several years. If you said to them, we want to go build another building, they're going to say, well, we'll potentially stop aid on the work in that building because you're not going to be using it for what it was deemed for. So it's kind of a a give and take. It's a real tough thing to go through the state education department to try to get a new building or additions done right now. They're really stressing. They want people to maintain their existing buildings and keep them in good condition. The price of new construction now is
Astronomical.
yeah, it's incredible. It's gone. When we started in Wappingers, I would say it was probably around $200 a square foot for construction, and we're probably in the 300 to 325 a square foot range right now. It's
All right,
plus
thank you.
materials. It's
Okay.
very difficult to get materials right now.
Are there
Yes.
any questions from Mr.
Thank
Sharp?
you.
Yes.
I have one.
I can't see where it is, so please ask the question.
Carrie, I hear someone else's
Okay.
voice.
Yeah, Carrie, go ahead, Carrie.
So I saw, of course, the RCK steps. What's the price tag on the steps?
The RCK steps, let's see.
I didn't want to make you jump through hoops. I thought it was on your slide.
Yeah, probably. Well, we did an update. Let me go back and look real quick.
180,000, John.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, 180.
180. Yep.
And for that, you would be doing what? Would you be busting out what's there and kind of putting a whole new fresh set in, or is that
Oh, yeah,
refacing?
Yeah, that all comes out and all new goes in.
Yeah, we're taking everything right down to the footings, putting in brand new concrete, epoxy coated rebar, so we don't have the same issues we had before. It's going to be the most of the cost of that is the grant steps into the over by the gymnasium.
So that's why I asked, because with my old eyes, I was looking at it and I thought I saw it in the millions. It was very fuzzy to me. So I actually feel relieved. Then I had another quick question. So like when I look at one of the later slides, kitchen shutoff breaker for 30 grand. So again, this is as a layperson asking questions, right? So I asked just what is involved in something like that? Because if anybody just looks at that number, what does that mean to us, right? This is for all intent and purpose, this is a commercial building. So it means more than we understand it to mean, but just sticker shock, is kind of wild.
Yeah, that's a breaker so that if there's a fire or an emergency, you can walk in the kitchen and hit a breaker right as you walk in the door. The expense is that you basically have to take all the circuits that are to all the equipment and run them to a shutoff. So there is quite a bit of investigation that goes into that. There's, as you know, in a school kitchen, the amount of equipment in there is tremendous. So we just want to make sure all those outlets and everything is on the shutoff. And again, these are budget numbers. As we get into the design and look at things, we use 30,000 for every school as a budget number. Obviously, the elementary schools would be higher and are lower, and the high schools would be higher. So we're very conservative with our numbers. I think that's why all of our projects so far with the district have come in under budget, because we want to make sure that we hit the target.
Thank you. I think, for my understanding, I need to have just a separate, sidebar conversation, maybe with Eddie or you or whatever. And if I need to understand them more,
Sure.
Again, just wanting, and I appreciate your explanation. So thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Are there any
I'm
other-
sure Mr. Shackey or Ron Brohoff or myself can help you with any of that information you need.
Thank you.
John?
Peggy?
Yes. Okay. First of all, congratulations for coming in at under cost on the previous $26 million project. So adding it up, it seems that you had $330,000 left to do the exterior stairs at Ketchum, Jay, and Myers Corners. That's excellent. Looking at the other items that were on the must-do list, but were not included in the proposed capital project. I noticed it's $450,000 for exterior work at Brinkerhoff, $210,000 for the fire alarm and the ADA upgrades at Fishkill, $900,000 for the boilers at Fishkill Plains plus Vassar Road, and $4,500,000 for exhaust fans, RTUs, AHUs, and unit ventilators at Gayhead, Sheaf Road, and Vassar Road. So that was the biggest amount that you didn't put in the proposed capital budget. Is it possible that we can pay for a good deal of that through the federal funding for improved ventilation for, because of COVID, under the 3 different plans?
We'd probably have to get together with Ms.
Christian.
Crandall to review that. I believe the ventilation may be the easiest thing to get through. They're only going to earmark that money for certain things. So we really have to get, we try to get some rulings from the state education department on that. They've been pretty vague as well as to what you can spend the money on. So it's still a kind of a moving target, but if we can use that money, absolutely. We would use that for whatever we can.
Okay, I think then that was very good planning on the part of the district and capital improvement committee to come, and you as architects, to come up to put things in the bond issue that we know we'll have to pay for ourselves, and
Right.
to look at these others as for possible federal funding. Thank you very much for a very thorough job.
Eddie? Eddie?
Yeah, just to clarify, for Peggy, we're still in the process of trying to get numbers for HVAC. We have at the next meeting for capital, we identified 6 buildings throughout the district, kind of as the sample, to find out exactly what HVAC structure, HVAC systems, we're going to look at. Obviously, Mr. McFarland's area of expertise, so he's kind of spearheading the review of the particular applications that we can use for each of the buildings based on, the ventilation that we have existing, what could be retrofitted, what could be added, and so forth. It's just the problem is as I mentioned earlier, and as Ms. Crandall had said, when are we getting that money and how are we going to be able to use it? Just because we have so many buildings, it's just not going to be enough. So we're going to have to address some of the HVAC upgrades through a capital project. Also, just to remind the board that the capital committee did present a phase 4 plan, which was approved several months ago, which included all of the exterior steps at Myers, RCK, and John Jay, and also some other minor work, roughly around the $1.8 to $2 million range, which was what was left over from phase 2. As Mr. Sharkey had just mentioned, I believe those plans are about to go to SED for approval or have just been sent to SED for approval. We're then hoping to get a decent amount of time allocated for an answer from them, and then go out to bid, and then bring that back to the full board, hopefully sometime either late March or into April, to approve the bid, and then obviously have that work done over the summer. So majority of those items have been addressed through the phase 4 of the leftover money, which we already approved several months ago. There may be a couple of tweaks here or there, but again, that just depends on what SED comes back with. Don't see any major problems because this is exterior work that we've already done at the buildings. It's just additional exterior work that we weren't able to address during the second phase 2. So I don't think that should be a problem. So we're able to utilize leftover funds, no additional cost to the taxpayers. So anything that was listed in that 19 million and change would be all brand new items to address.
Any other questions? Once again, I'd like to thank Mr. Schlesauer and the rest of the committee, Capital Improvement Committee members, for their input, and of course, John Sharkey and our resident expert, Mr. Bross, and Mike McFarland does an excellent job on the committee too. So thank you very much, everybody. And
Thank you.
And with that being said, 5.01, consent agenda items. Does anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none. Peggy?
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve following consent agenda items as stated: 5.02, 5.03, 5.04, 5.05, 5.06, 5.07, 5.08, 5.09, 5.10, 5.11, 5.12, 5.13, and 5.14.
Motion? Motion, Marie Johnson made the motion, second Mike McFarland. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Aye.
Unanimous. 6.01. 6.01, approval of change order from John J. Roofing exhaust fans, 2011 district-wide HVAC renovation.
Resolved that the Board of Education approve change order H1-001 for John Jay High School rooftop exhaust fans at a cost of $102,802 as per memo dated January 6, 2022, from the school district's architect to the Director of Facilities and Operations and recommended by the Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Peggy Kellen. A discussion? With that being said, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. 6.02, first reading of policies. Again, this is a first reading. Please, the community, look at those policies, see if you have any comments. And if so, please address them to the chairperson, Ms. Peggy Kelland.
Okay, just for everyone's information, the changes in the policies are either grammatical or wording changes required by state or federal regulations, or are updates to how we actually do some of these processes in our school district, with changes of title and other changes in systems that we use and processes.
Okay, 7.01. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none. 8.01, comments from the public. Alberta, are there any comments from the public?
Yes, I'll read them for you now.
Okay,
Okay, the first comment is from Jill Greer. Topic of her comment is masks. Today, the New York Supreme Court ruled that the governor's mask mandate for schools and public places is illegal. When will you notify the parents that their children no longer need to wear a mask if they choose? Okay, the next comment was submitted by Alyssa Kanchambi. I was hoping you may have some updated information regarding the recent threat, January 19, 2022 at RCK. When can RCK expect to have a full-time deputy on staff again? Also, can the safety committee consider a lock and door buzzer system for the main offices, specifically the high schools? I look forward to your response and thank you for your time. And the next comment is from Diana Santos. The topic of her comment is mask mandate. The Supreme Court overruled that masks can be required by law and mandated. What is the district going to do to change this policy on masks? The school district does not have the right to require masks anymore. And that's the end of the comments.
I would thank you for those comments. And with that, I make a motion to adjourn. Marie Johnson, and second by Mike McFarland. All those in favor?
Aye.
Alberta, please stay on.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Ron.